Regarding the Neanderthal skull, one early anthropologist wrote, "Darkness characterized the being to which the fossil belonged, and the thoughts and desires which once dwelt within it never soared beyond those of the brute." For the majority of scientific history, we have told the story of Neanderthals in a way that makes us appear superior. We were smarter, less savage, and better physically equipped to inherit the Earth than the Neanderthal. This story makes us feel optimistic about the future, because if Neanderthals were our equals and still went extinct, what's stopping nature from being just as cruel to modern humans? Indeed, Neanderthals were stereotyped as club-wielding cave thugs, only capable of crude thought and animalistic savagery. In fact, less than 2 decades ago, anthropologists were still debating whether Neanderthals could speak, use fire, cook their food, and even speculated that they were scavengers rather than hunters. They were depicted as disheveled cavemen wearing crude animal skins and wielding wooden clubs and barely surviving. When Neanderthals were first identified from the fossil record around 150 years ago, anthropologists typically took a negative view of anyone that were different from the modern European, and thus the Neanderthal was regarded as a savage. Nonetheless, around 50 years ago, some anthropologists started to recognize that Neanderthals engaged in intelligent behaviors, such as burying the dead, caring for broken bones, and creating sophisticated tools. Neanderthals were not known to have left grave goods, but this could have been a cultural practice rather than a lack of intelligence. Similarly, their lack of cave art could have just been a cultural preference rather than a lack of intelligence. For example, in the modern world we do not leave grave goods or paint pictures on cave walls, but this does not mean that we are lacking intelligence. In fact, for a few decades the Neanderthal was promoted to Homo sapiens neanderthalensis before being relegated once again to Homo neanderthalensis. The reason for this shift was because of the new theory that Homo sapiens evolved in Africa. So therefore, Neanderthals could not be part of the Homo sapiens family because they did not evolve in Africa. Similarly, highly sophisticated behaviors such as symbolic thinking, creating art, elaborate grave burials including grave goods, and creating sophisticated weapons were all believed to have originated with Homo sapiens in Africa. So now we have a problem when it comes to recognizing Neanderthal intelligence, because if we admit that Neanderthals were as intelligent as Homo sapiens, then anthropologists can be accused of bias. Indeed, evidence for cognitively complex Neanderthals has only grown in recent years, since archaeological data demonstrates that many of the technical innovations assumed to be contemporary human creations were already in use by Neanderthals. At this point, anyone who chooses to think of human intelligence as an uncommon uniqueness could profit from acknowledging that Neanderthals were also intelligent humans. For example, archaeologists digging in the Netherlands recently discovered flint and bone shards from 200,000 years ago with residues of red ochre on them, indicating that Neanderthals used the substance much earlier than previously thought. Ochre is a type of earth pigment that is a naturally tinted clay with mineral oxides in it, and while the researchers don't know what purpose the red ochre might have served, they are fairly certain the material was not native to the local surroundings, implying that the Neanderthals would have had to find it in another remote location and transport it back. Such effort implies that the material was certainly employed for something, which could have included using it as a pigment to create creative images on rocks or even their bodies. Modern hunter-gatherers have been observed using red ochre as an insect repellent, a food preservation method, a sort of medication, and a tanning agent for hides, but it is unclear whether Neanderthals were involved in any of these activities. The ochre substance discovered by the scientists in the Netherlands is thought to date back 200,000 to 250,000 years, which is a significant date. A recent study published in the journal Science reveals that the modern human Y chromosome totally replaced the Neanderthal Y chromosome when male Homo sapiens first mated with female Neanderthals between 100,000 and 370,000 years ago, most likely around 235,000 years ago. Natural selection may have favored the Homo sapiens Y chromosome because Neanderthals had more detrimental mutations across their genomes. Neanderthals also had small numbers, and small populations tend to accumulate dangerous mutations, particularly on the sex chromosomes. One argument is that male Homo sapiens or sapiens Neanderthal hybrids ran through the female Neanderthal population, replacing the Neanderthal Y chromosome and effectively emasculating the Neanderthal male population. These Homo sapiens men may have brought some new technology or had other characteristics that appealed to female Neanderthals, such as a superior method of producing birch bark tar, the use of red ochre, and/or improved fire-starting technology and weaponry. As mentioned, one illustration of Neanderthal intellect is the utilization of birch bark tar. The oldest direct evidence of birch bark tar dates back to 200,000 years ago in Italy. Recent research has shown that birch tar can be combined with red ochre, honey resin, red ochre, and other natural ingredients to create a variety of birch tars. This can be used as a cement to attach spearheads to handles. It can also be used as a glue to bond animal hides and make waterproof clothes. Birch tar can also be used to tan animal hides and as wood polish, such as in tanning and preservation processes. Researchers examined the birch tar used to glue Neanderthal implements and discovered a significantly more intricate technique for generating the adhesive than previously thought. In their work titled Production Method of the Königsauer Birch Tar, Documents Cumulative Culture in Neanderthals, published in Archaeological and Anthropological Sciences, the scientists compared several methods of producing birch tar to chemical residues found on ancient Neanderthal artifacts. According to the paper's authors, Neanderthal birch tar making seems to be the first documented manifestation of this kind in human evolution. In fact, one of the characteristics of human intelligence is the ability to create substances and materials that do not exist in nature. Simple tools were originally included in this evaluation, but since various animals have been discovered changing and manipulating materials to be used as tools, it has become a less distinctive evidence of intelligent behavior. Synthetic material manufacture remains a crucial component of human cognitive superiority over other animals since it necessitates conscious thinking, planning, and knowledge of our activities in order to convert raw materials using a learning procedure. The study demonstrates that modern humans are not alone in this ability, and they were not the first to achieve this intelligence milestone. Neanderthals utilized birch tar 100,000 years before modern humans developed any known adhesive. The sticky material was employed as an adhesive backing to link stone to bone and wood in tools and weapons, and it was also water and organic decomposition resistant. It has been claimed that Neanderthals generated birch tar either through a constructed technique or by scraping the substance from rocks after a fire. However, through a comparative chemical examination of 2 birch tar pieces from Germany and a huge reference birch tar collection manufactured with Stone Age techniques, the researchers discovered that Neanderthals did not merely find birch tar after a fire, nor did they use the most basic manufacturing method. Instead, researchers determined that the Neanderthals who created the birch tar extracted the synthetic glue using the most efficient method, a stepwise oxygen-restricted distillation process of subsurface heating. According to the investigators, this degree of complexity is unlikely to have been invented spontaneously. This implies that the methodology would have begun with simpler methods and evolved into the more complicated process through trial and error. To investigate the method that produced the birch tar, the researchers conducted experimental archaeology by reproducing 5 alternative extraction procedures, 2 above ground and 3 below earth. The researchers analyzed and compared their tar-making procedures to ancient artifacts using infrared spectroscopy, gas chromatography, mass spectrometry, and microcomputed tomography after extracting the birch tar. Oxygen availability at the moment of extraction left a distinct mark on the experimental tars, distinguishing above-ground from below-ground procedures. The Stone Age items matched the underground production method. In contrast to above-ground procedures, both ancient tar artifacts and below-ground studies demonstrated soil-mineral interaction and were free of soot-related carbons. Underground transformative techniques are more difficult to implement than above-ground procedures because some steps cannot be viewed or modified after the procedure begins, necessitating a more precise setup approach. Anatomically, modern humans began to appear in Western Europe some 55,000 years ago, eventually replacing the last Neanderthals. This period also marks significant changes in material cultures, particularly the wide range of bone goods introduced by modern human societies, such as hunting weapons, ornaments, and Venus figurines. Their absence from Neanderthal sites has led to the notion that Neanderthals did not make bone tools and implements, which is sometimes interpreted as reflecting cognitive differences between the two populations. The theory was that because the Neanderthals had no idea how to handle this raw material, they were limited to gathering bone fragments from butchery remains and using them solely as retouchers for shaping flint tools. However, current research indicates that Neanderthal bone tools are as common as flint tools. Furthermore, their diversity demonstrates a legitimate industry that includes not only retouchers, but also cutting tools, scrapers, chisels, and smoothers that are employed for a variety of purposes and materials. Using X-ray microtomography, these bone tools can be identified based on traces of manufacture and use on their surfaces, as well as within the tools. Unlike examples constructed by modern humans, which are often fashioned by scraping and abrasion, these Neanderthal tools were predominantly created through percussion. The discovery of a bone tool industry in Europe is consistent with evidence found a few years ago by the same researchers at the Neanderthal site of Chagirskaya in the Siberian Altai Mountains. These two sites, located on opposite sides of the Neanderthal range, demonstrate that, like contemporary humans, Neanderthals manufactured and utilized bone tools for daily use. They knew how to prepare bone using their own procedures and objectives. Therefore, bone tools provide a new avenue for studying and comprehending Neanderthal technology. Neanderthals were also skilled woodworkers, crafting sophisticated wooden tools and shelters. For instance, a 300,000-year-old hunting weapon has shed new light on early humans' abilities as woodworkers, according to a recent study. The investigation of a double-pointed wooden throwing stick discovered in Schöningen, Germany, 3 decades ago, reveals that it was scraped, seasoned and sanded before being used to hunt animals. Indeed, the study found that early humans' woodworking techniques were more advanced and complex than previously thought. The data also indicate that the development of lightweight weaponry may have facilitated group hunts of medium and small animals. The usage of throwing sticks as hunting tools may have engaged the entire community, including youngsters. Discoveries of wooden tools have revolutionized our understanding of early human behaviors. Amazingly, these early humans demonstrated an ability to plan well in advance, a strong understanding of the properties of wood, and many sophisticated woodworking skills and arboreal knowledge that we still use today. These lightweight throwing sticks may have been easier to launch than heavier spears, indicating the potential for the whole community to take part. Such tools could have been used by children while learning to throw and hunt. The Schöningen Neanderthals used a spruce branch to make this aerodynamic and ergonomic tool. The woodworking involved multiple steps, including cutting and stripping off the bark, carving it into an aerodynamic shape, scraping away more of the surface, seasoning the wood to avoid cracking and warping, and sanding it for easier handling. The 77-centimetre-long stick was unearthed in Schöningen in 1994, together with many other instruments such as throwing spears, thrusting spears, and a second, similarly sized throwing stick. The double-pointed throwing stick, which was researched in great detail for this study, was most likely employed by early humans to hunt medium-sized wildlife like red deer and roe deer, as well as fast small animals like hare and birds that were otherwise difficult to catch. The throwing sticks would have been thrown rotationally, like a boomerang rather than overhead, like a contemporary javelin, allowing Neanderthals to throw up to 30 meters. Although lightweight, the tremendous speeds at which such weapons can be launched could result in lethal high-energy collisions. The fine surface, skillfully shaped points, and polish from handling indicate that this was an item of personal importance with frequent use, rather than a hastily produced tool that was carelessly discarded. Neanderthals began to disappear from Europe some 45,000 years ago, but the specific cause of their extinction remains unknown. Some paleo-archaeologists believe they simply couldn't reproduce quickly enough to keep up with the modern humans that arrived in Europe about the same period. Others believe modern humans exterminated any Neanderthal bands they came across, while some argue that an environmental catastrophe, such as a volcanic explosion in Europe, wiped out numerous plants and animals. According to some researchers, a novel hypothesis implies that our biological brothers and sisters were unprepared to weather a cold spell that occurred over 2 long periods of extended cold climates around the time their species began to collapse. Researchers examined stalagmites in 2 Romanian caves to learn more about the temperature of Central Europe during the last Neanderthal period. According to a news release, stalagmites, like trees, form thin new layers each year. Temperature affects the size and chemical content of calcium carbonate layers. Each layer contains isotopic data on rainfall, soil microorganisms that reflect the fertility of the land, and other data that may be used to generate a detailed annual climate record. The cave formations gave the most detailed record of climatic change in Europe to date. New paleoclimate data reveal that a very cold, dry period began around 44,000 years ago and lasted 1,000 years. Another cold, dry period began 40,800 years ago and lasted approximately 600 years. It was cold enough that average temperatures plummeted below zero, resulting in year-round permafrost. These climate disturbances are consistent with the archaeological record, which shows that Neanderthals began to depart from the Danube River Valley and France, the center of their region, at the same time as early evidence of modern humans appeared. For many years we wondered what had caused their death. Were they driven over the edge by the introduction of modern humans into their ecological niche, or were there other factors? The twin dosage of super-cold weather certainly affected the ecology dramatically, changing Central Europe's forests into Arctic-like steppes. Early humans with more flexible methods most likely moved into previous Neanderthal territory rather than actively killing the human species, according to optimists. The theory suggests that it's probable that the Neanderthal population died during the first winter snap. When the second one occurred, the surviving tiny bands of Neanderthals were most likely assimilated into modern human populations, as demonstrated by Neanderthal DNA found in modern human genomes. So why did Neanderthals disappear throughout these climate transitions while modern humans survived? The researchers believe that because Neanderthals relied largely on protein from large game animals, they struggled to adjust when cold climate affected their populations. Homo sapiens, on the other hand, were more adaptable, eating a wide range of vegetation, fish and meat, allowing them to thrive in the freezing steppe. Nevertheless, not everyone is convinced by the findings. Neanderthals had survived many cold snaps before the ones that occurred 45,000 years ago, so it doesn't seem reasonable that one single incident would have such a significant impact. In fact, researchers point out that the cold spells did not only affect Neanderthals. After the Neanderthals vanished, the climate continued to ice out modern humans. Each time one human culture vanished due to a severe ice age, another culture arose when the planet warmed back up. This suggests that Neanderthal intelligence and modern human intelligence was not so far apart. And with that tantalizing statement, we leave you to ponder the mysteries of our shared human history. Until next time, stay curious and stay questioning. Also, please subscribe, share, and explore our channel's other highly compelling videos. Thank you, and take care.